How would you ask, do you want to eat dinner?
你要吃晚饭吗？
Ask, do you want to eat dinner now?
你现在要吃晚饭吗？
Say, let's go to the restaurant.
我们去饭店吧。
How did you say, in the restaurant?
饭店里。
Say, in the restaurant, there are a lot of people.
饭店里有很多人。饭店里有很多人。
Ask, how many people are there?
有几个人？
Say, there are several people.
有一些人。
Say 100.
100。
Listen to over 100.
100多。100多。
How would you say, there are 100 people?
有100人。
Try and say, there are over 100 people.
有100多人。有100多人。
Say, please give us 2 coffees, thanks.
请给我们2杯咖啡，谢谢。
How would you say, I would like to buy?
我想买。
How did you say 2 apples?
2个苹果。
What about 5 photographs? Remember to use the correct counter word.
5张照片。
And what about 5 pieces of apple?
5块苹果。
That's the same kwai as the kwai in 50 bucks.
50块。
And how would you say 3 books?
3本书。
And if you remember, that was the same ben used in the word for Japan.
日本。
Now say, I would like to buy several books.
我想买一些书。我想买一些书。
Notice, when we say several like this, we don't need to add the counter word, ben. But how did you say a few people?
几个人。几个人。
Remember that g is a counter word. So whenever you use jiga, you need to include the correct counter. When talking about books, the g in jiga changes to ben. So try and say, I would like to buy a few books.
我想买几本书。我想买几本书。
And how about, I would like to eat a few pieces of apple?
我想吃几块苹果。我想吃几块苹果。
Try and say, I would like to buy 100 apples.
我想买100个苹果。我想买100个苹果。
How would you say, my younger brother is a student?
我弟弟是个学生。or 我弟弟是学生。
Ask, What about your older brother?
你哥哥呢？你哥哥呢？
Say, he is also a student.
他也是学生。他也是学生。
Ask, what's his name?
他叫什么名字？他叫什么名字？
How might you say, my younger and older brothers are students?
我弟弟和哥哥是学生。
Now try and say, my younger and older brothers are both students.
我弟弟和哥哥都是学生。
And remember, in this situation, you wouldn't say 两个都, because with Didi and Gerger, you're already specifying two people. If, however, you had many younger and older brothers, you could add the number in and say 五个都 to clarify how many you had. How would you say, I live here because I'm a student?
我住在这儿，因为我是学生。
Say, I live here because I'm learning Mandarin.
我住在这儿，因为我在学汉语。我住在这儿，因为我在学汉语。
Ask, can you speak Mandarin?
你会说汉语吗？
Reply, I can speak a little Mandarin.
我会说一点汉语。
Now in Taiwan, you can also say some Mandarin. Try that. Say in a Taiwanese style, I can speak some Mandarin.
我会说一些汉语。我会说一些汉语。
Using 一些 like this only really works in Taiwan. It would sound strange to mainlanders. How would you ask, may I buy this?
我可以买这个吗？
And how might you say, I'm unable to go, or I can't go?
我不能去。or 我不可以去。
Say, I'm unable to go tomorrow.
我明天不能去。
Say, I'm going to visit my family.
我去见我家人。or 我去见家人。我去见我家人。or 我去见家人。
Now say together, I'm unable to go tomorrow because I'm visiting my family.
我明天不能去，因为我要去见我家人。我明天不能去，因为我要去见我家人。
Listen to the response.
好的，没关系。好的，没关系。
That 没关系 means it doesn't matter or not to worry. The tones are second, first, fourth. It's the same 没 as no, and 关系 means relationship, but taken together they mean not to worry. Say, OK, not to worry. Goodbye.
好的，没关系。再见。
Do you remember the words for yesterday, today, tomorrow?
昨天、今天、明天。
What about last week, this week, next week?
上个星期、这个星期、下个星期。
What about last month, this month, next month?
上个月、这个月、下个月。
And how did you say not to worry?
没关系，没关系。
How did you say Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
星期四、星期五、星期六。
And what was the main word we used for Sunday?
星期日，星期日。
And do you remember the alternative way of saying it?
星期天，星期天。
You can use either of those words, but to avoid confusion, we're consistently using 星期日 in this course. Say, I don't have $100.
我没有100块，我没有100块。
And what about yesterday I didn't have $100?
昨天我没有100块。
And now try and say, yesterday I didn't have $100, but today I do.
昨天我没有100块，但是今天有。昨天我没有100块，但是今天有。
Notice that in English, when we say I do, it's a shorthand for repeating the main verb of the sentence, in this case meaning I do have. What was the word for not to worry?
没关系，
And how did you ask, is it cold outside?
外面冷吗？外面冷吗？
How would you say, my older sister isn't hungry?
我姐姐不饿。我姐姐不饿。
Say, my younger sister is also not hungry.
我妹妹也不饿。我妹妹也不饿。
Now try and say, everyone is not hungry.
大家都不饿。大家都不饿。
A small quirk of the language here is that when you say everyone is not, you must use do. As I said before, it's safer to use it rather than not, because there are cases like this that require it. Say, not to worry, let's go to the restaurant tomorrow then.
没关系，那我们明天去饭店吧。没关系，那我们明天去饭店吧。
Say, OK, see you tomorrow.
好的，明天见。
Listen to the word for year.
年，年，年，年。
That second tone. What were the words for today and tomorrow?
今天，明天。
This year and next year follow the same pattern. Try and say them both now. This year and next year.
今年，明年。今年，明年。
But how did you say this month and next month?
这个月，下个月。这个月，下个月。
To say last year, the Chinese say the year that's gone, or literally, go year. Listen.
去年，去年，去年。
Now, technically, it is also acceptable to say 上年, but it's not used in everyday speech. It tends to be reserved for financial records or statistics and means something like the preceding year. So for all day-to-day uses, stick to 去年. Say, I went to China last year.
我去年去中国 or 我去年去中国了。
Say, this year I want to go to Japan.
今年我要去日本。今年我要去日本。
Say, yesterday, last week, last month, last year.
昨天，上个星期，上个月，去年。
And what was the word for not to worry?
没关系。
Do you remember how to say, I need to go to China?
我需要去中国。
Say, last year I needed to go to China.
我去年需要去中国。
Say, last year I needed to go to China for work.
我去年需要去中国工作。我去年需要去中国工作。
How did you say now?
现在，
Say, now I'm in Japan.
现在我在日本。现在我在日本。
Now change the word order slightly and say, I am now in Japan.
我现在在日本。我现在在日本。
And how did you say at the moment?
正在，
Say, I'm working at the moment.
我正在工作。
But what was I'm working now?
我现在在工作。我现在在工作。
That uses two 在s, the first as a part of 现在 and the second as a contraction of 正在, meaning to be in the process of doing something. What was last year?
去年，
And how would you say several years?
一些年，
What about a few years?
几年，
And how would you say how many years?
几年，几年。
How did you ask, what's your name? Literally, you're called what name?
你叫什么名字？你叫什么名字？
Do you remember how to say I can't, meaning you're not allowed to?
我不可以。我不可以。
The 可 in 可以 means something like approval, and the 以 something like by. So together they mean by approval or with permission. Now listen to the words for before and after.
以前，以后。 以前、以后。
That's the same E as we used in 可以, which I said meant by. So it's the 前 and 后 which carry the meaning of before and after. Say the full word for before.
以前，以前，
That's third, second. And after?
以后，以后。
That's third, fourth. The 前 in before is exactly the same tone and pronunciation as the word for money, although the character is completely different. A silly mnemonic to help you remember them is to say to yourself, before I easily had money, 以前. After, I'm easily in a hole, 以后. How did you say last year?
去年，
How might you say 2 years before or 2 years ago?
2年以前， 2年以前。
And what about 3 years after or 3 years later?
3年以后， 3年以后。
Now, how did you say this evening?
今天晚上 or 今晚。
Notice the Chinese like to shorten words like this whenever possible. Can you take a guess at how you might shorten 2 years ago?
2年前，
And 3 years later?
3年后。
As I said, it's the 前 and 后 that carry the meaning of before and after. As is frequently the case in Mandarin, the second character, yi, in this case, is just used to clarify the meaning whenever the context might be unclear or to add emphasis. As such, if the context is clear, it can be dropped.